Okay, so this is going to be our third and final part of our Ultimate Warrior series. It's True Wrestling Fans Discussions. I'm your host, Mike.
And I'm Frank, and let's just get right to it.
Okay.
This is the bad part of the trilogy.
Yeah, so Warrior didn't really do much from 96 to 98. Eventually, in about December, very end of December, Vince McMahon actually offers the Ultimate Warrior contract to try to bring him back. Remember, at that point, he had lost Bret Hart. He had lost Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig. You guys know the story.
The list is endless of what we lost. I mean, everybody.
It goes on and on and on. So despite how bad things went in 96, Vince still offered him a very lucrative deal. He was going to pay him $750,000 a year. And that's just base. That's no matter what. He's going to get $750,000 annually. He was only going to have to work for 14 dates per month, I believe. 14 days a month, I should say. He was also going to get 35% merchandise percentage. So that's a lot because guys were only getting 25%, I think was the cap, was the max. So he was gonna get that. So it was a pretty good deal. Vince wrote him the letter. So Vince basically, he says, I'm looking forward to the resurgence of the Ultimate Warrior. This is a very lucrative deal, very positive. Warrior looked at it, but then he remembered what happened last time. Vince made all these promises. They signed the contract.
Last two times.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So he was like, you know what? I don't think I'm going to do this. Eric Bischoff eventually wants to offer him a contract. Now, Eric says it was at the behest of Hulk Hogan.
Of course it was.
Yeah.
And we all know why.
We'll get to that later on. So yeah. Hogan reaches out to Warrior. He keeps telling him, Hogan basically tells him like that he's got the juice. He's got the power. He can sign whoever he wants. He's got the open, the blank check, yada, yada.
It's true. Technically, it was true.
Jump on the gravy train. Well, Eric is the one Bischoff is the one who had the.
But Hogan has Bischoff.
He had juice. Right. So in a way, he was telling the truth.
Yeah.
The Warrior tells him, listen, that better be a very big check. Better be a big check. So he eventually starts negotiating with Bischoff. He negotiates. It goes on for a while. They offered him a very good deal because in the end, I think Warrior got paid like $1 million for like 3 months.
Yeah.
So that's a great deal.
I would say so.
Yeah. So he gets paid pretty good. So he ends up eventually signing to WCW in the middle of the Monday Night Wars, in the middle of the NWO at the Wolfpack versus NWO was going on. Black and White versus Red and Black was going on at the time. The business was red hot on both sides. The industry was red hot. And eventually it brings us to August and his Nitro debut, August 1998.
Yep. And this was actually at the time now where they brought him in hopes of rebalancing the ratings war, because you remember 98 in April, WWE finally won a week, and then they lost several after that, but then it was flopping back and forth. So Bischoff thought that this might be a way of sealing the deal to win the Monday Night War and put Vince out of business. They signed him. He made his debut August 17th, 1998 in WCW. He started out by pretty much taunting the NWO. Matter of fact, if you remember, and I know you do, he had created a stable in WCW called the OWN. NWO back was One Warrior Nation. Unfortunately, the guy he picked to be in the group with him, I didn't understand. It was the Disciple, a.k.a. I'm just going to do this beefcake, because if I go through all his gimmicks there, we'll be here in hours.
The Booty Man.
So,
all right, anyway.
Oh, yeah, exactly. So, Brutus Beefcake, a.k.a. now the Disciple, left the NWO, goes with the Warrior.
Well, we got to get into the epic promo.
By all means.
Yeah. So Warrior makes his, you hear the music. They couldn't use the same music.
No,
and
so
actually,
it was different.
And that actually took a little while for the Warrior to make his debut, because even though Warrior had won the rights to use his name, I think he couldn't use Ultimate Warrior, I think. And there was a back and forth. There was some sort of back and forth, and Bischoff was worried about getting.
I think they just called him the Warrior.
The Warrior, yeah. They call him just Warrior. So I think that's why there was a delay between. I believe he signed in May. He didn't show up till August.
Yeah.
So they have that epic promo where the Warrior comes down. He's got the jacket, and Hogan is scared. He's shaking, and now apparently Warrior, according to Bischoff and Hogan, he starts rambling. He goes on a little too long. He goes over the time. And he goes into business for himself. I personally like the promo. Was a little bit too long. Yeah, I have to
Was
agree.
that the one that went 30 minutes and it was like 20 minutes over the time limit? So Bischoff had to revamp the card for the rest of the night. Yeah.
Whatever it was. It kind of went a little too long, but I thought
I mean, half-hour promo is even a lot for the NWO, let alone Warrior.
Yeah. And they won the rating.
Oh yeah, they did.
So it worked out.
The first night it was a blowout.
And he tells them, you may have beaten giants, myths, and I think legends or something like that. And he says, but you never ever beat a Warrior.
Yeah.
And then everyone went crazy, and Hogan's looking at him. He's all upset, and the Warrior did ramble a little bit. I liked it personally. When I first watched it, I didn't think like, oh, this sucks. What's going on here? I liked it.
We didn't think, hey, this is kind of taking too long.
Right. No,
we were just excited, like, oh my God, the Warrior's on Nitro now.
Yeah,
what's going on?
And it was great. And he went over. He kind of talked about their history a little bit. How he was,
he had a lot to get off his chest.
Yeah, and it was great. Now, again, to go back to the self-destruction of Ultimate Warrior DVD, Hogan says that he wanted to knock out Ultimate Warrior because he says Warrior did the biggest no-no with the business. You can't say that you beat me because then why is anybody going to watch the pay-per-view? Now, I want you to really think about that. What wrestling fan? This is why I have problems with Hogan. What wrestling fan does not know that Ultimate Warrior beat Hulk Hogan?
And here's another thing. Let me add to that too. If he does mention that he beat him, wouldn't you want to go back and watch it if you hadn't seen it already? Because case in point, remember when they used to give away the results on Monday Night Raw because it was taped? Okay. Tony Schiavone says Mankind wins their title. That'll put butts in the seat. How many people at that point, when they were winning the rating that night, at the 9 o'clock hour when Mankind was to face The Rock, how many people then said, oh, wait a minute, he beat him? They all changed over to watch it. It's like they pretty much, Mankind kind of told Schiavone, thank you, because you made me even more popular. So why would it be detrimental to that when if I've never seen it before, if I'm a brand new wrestling fan, I'm watching this, and you said I've beaten him, and I'm looking at these two guys, of course I'm going to go back and watch it. I want to see how it happened.
Yeah, but I guess they didn't want to give WWF any business or put WWF over at all. I don't know.
How many times on a weekly basis were they doing it?
Yeah,
I mean, how many times did Hogan refer to the big company up north? I mean,
but not only that, and I could be wrong, but I kind of seem to remember Roddy Piper saying similar things to Hogan when Roddy was feuding with Hogan. How Hogan never beat him, he never pinned his shoulders. You beat everybody, you didn't beat me. So Hogan, again, another example of Hogan's BS.
And another example is when Luger made his debut on the original Nitro, and Hogan's talking to him. You've beaten the same people I've beaten in a similar company. So I mean, it was always the banter was always going on.
But so the Warrior, but Warrior does mention Ultimate in that promo. I remember he says something Ultimate or something like that. So it went a little bit long. I thought it was fine. Warrior looked in great shape. He was jacked. He had the jacket. He always had those cool looking jackets. He had the boots and everything. I didn't like his music because I was so used to the original.
Well, WCW was never known. They had a couple of cool entrance themes, but ultimately they were always kind of like throw together garbage. I mean, they've had the cool ones, the Wolfpack, Goldberg, NWO theme, Sting, stuff like that. But ultimately, a mid-card guy had average music at that. I mean, it was just, they weren't known for their themes.
So, again, in the Warrior documentary, the self-destruction, they said they were all upset, blah, 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 yada, yada. We're not, whatever. So anyway, unfortunately, it kind of, to me, it started off good, and then it went downhill from there.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately. Just like his WWE second run, he only had 3 matches in WCW while he was there. Unfortunately enough, the first 2 were good. I will give him that. Matter of fact, the second one was better than the first. He participated at War Games in an 9-man match where the winner got a shot at Goldberg's title at Halloween Havoc.
Right, but before, during the build-up, remember during the build-up, they started doing like the supernatural stuff. He was seeing Warrior in the mirror, and
and then he turned around, he wasn't there. They were doing the mythical stuff, the smoke, the lights. Yeah,
I get it. I just didn't really care for it.
He's not the Undertaker.
You know what? Right, he's not the Undertaker, and what all the other stuff that was going on, WCW was kind of realistic in the way they did stuff, so it didn't really fit in with the rest of what they were doing with the NWO and everything. It just,
you know how I could see it fits in, kind of like Hogan's Nightmare revisiting him, because we all know that the one thing on Hogan's staying on Hogan's career was WrestleMania 6. So the guy that cost him the match, that beat him, all of a sudden is back and he's haunting him. So I guess they're kind of showing you in like reality that he's always haunting him. He's everywhere.
I get that, but they never really explained it, that it was kind
of. No, they didn't. We had to figure it out for ourselves later on.
Right. So it never really fit. Then they did the trap, and then we'll get into the trap door thing, because the trap door was not Warrior's idea.
No, and it was Bischoff.
They were only supposed to use it once for his debut, for him to disappear with the smoke. And that was it. And for some reason, they
just kept doing it, because he even entered the Fall Brawl match through the trapdoor.
Yes.
And if you listen to, it was a match prior to that involving the British Bulldog. He said that he was almost paralyzed when he felt awkwardly when he hit the trapdoor. Now,
some sort of a spinal infection.
Yeah, take it with a grain of salt. No. I mean, he said, she said thing. I don't know. You can go back and watch the match. The fall wasn't detrimental.
And that's why he started using the painkillers and all this other stuff. He almost died from the infection. Maybe it's true. Warrior says he called absolute BS on it. He said, "Listen, Davey Boy had a lot of demons. He had a lot of problems, and it wasn't because of the trapdoor." So,
and in any event, the Fall Brawl match that Warrior was involved in was pretty much a who's who in that match, with a couple of guys like, why are they in there? And you had Diamond Dallas Page, Bret Hart, Stevie Ray, Sting, Roddy Piper, Lex Luger, Kevin Nash, and Hulk Hogan. Now, the only guy that doesn't fit in there is Stevie Ray.
Yeah, but the star power.
He's an NWO guy just to help Hogan, pretty much. But that's a star-powered battle royal through that match. DDP winds up winning the match. Then Stevie Ray, of course.
The match was
no.
Yeah. And then
their cage also wasn't that high, because if you remember, I mean, how many times these guys were hitting the top of the cage? I mean, it's just there was a few errors in it, especially with that many guys in the ring.
Yeah, was Horace Hogan involved in that? Do you remember?
Horace Hogan was not so much in that match, but he was involved in the NWO, and he and I'll get to him in a sec, because he's involved in something, and because that's around the time they were using the storyline that was Hogan's nephew.
Yeah, it really is though. This really his nephew. Yeah.
Good, but the storyline just didn't fit. I mean, I understand after Ravens flopped.
He sucked. He tried to get him a job.
Yeah, they tried to keep him around.
Well, he tried to get him a job in WWE, and they gave him like a tryout, and it didn't work out. So now he got him a job. Now he looks like
a young Eric Rowan. I mean, what are you gonna do with him?
But unfortunately, in that match, Warrior tears his bicep, and I think it was when he was swinging on the cage itself. He tore his bicep pretty bad. And to Warrior's credit, he still trained. He said he was using like hoses to work out, because he couldn't really lift the heavy weights. But he wanted to perform. He wanted to show up for the fans, and he wanted to show good faith. Keep going.
And he didn't even miss any time with that.
No,
because he kept on his schedule.
No, unlike other guys in WCW who would get a paper cut and then they wouldn't show up because they had guaranteed contracts.
Seriously,
right. So the Warrior actually had a lot of passion. And even Bischoff admits this. The Warrior did have passion. So
yeah. And then we go to his second match, which was on Nitro, October 12th, 1998, where the Blade Runners reunited. Sting and Sting and Warrior.
Yeah.
Versus Hulk Hogan and Bret Hart.
And why do you? Okay, and here's the thing. I like the whole spontaneity of Nitro and how we would get like these pay-per-view quality matches.
Yes.
But something like that was huge, man.
Pay-per-view.
You got to do that on a pay-per-view, and you got to build it up. You got to have a storyline of why they reformed the Blade Runners, and
that was a perfect match for Halloween Havoc.
Come on, yeah, and you could.
Yeah. They were known for that because they wanted to beat Vince in the ratings. Look at case in point, the whole Goldberg Hogan thing. Imagine you put that at that pay-per-view in the Georgia Dome, and you got 100,000 fans. And the buy rate on that thing is going to go through the roof. You just made millions and millions off of that, and you put it on Nitro for free, just so you can win the ratings.
Because they always thought short term and Vince thought long term, and we're going to get into this when we do our WCW Rise and Fall and our NWO series. We're going to get into all of that.
It was all about the ratings, and their pay-per-views were what their Nitros should have been, and their Nitros were what the pay-per-view should have been.
Then the Nitros,
because this right here, I would have paid the money. What was it, 25 bucks back then? I would have paid to actually see this. And I was a wrestling fan, but I was pro WWE at the time. But something like this, like Starrcade 97, I actually watched live. I would have paid for this.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Halloween Havoc, well, if you wanted to see the main event, you never could that night.
Yeah.
So who's to say if this would have even ran over?
Yeah.
But in any event, this ended like every match on Nitro main event. It was a disqualification. So the Warrior and Sting won, but by DQ. That was the moniker of Nitro. It was just
typical run in, and
you knew Nitro was over when 23 guys stepped in the ring and Cervani yells, "Here comes Sting!"
Yeah,
and then now you know it's Sting. We gotta go. Yeah. Once he comes down,
we gotta go, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
After 23 guys out of 4 limos get out there, take out one guy. Here comes Sting, and he's going to beat up all 23. Yeah, that was just the way Nitro operated.
Yeah.
And from there, and I don't even want to discuss this one because I honestly, I want to just leave this feud as one and done. But unfortunately, Hulk Hogan and Warrior culminated their feud in their second match and his third in WCW and last at Halloween Havoc.
The rematch of the century.
Could have fooled me.
Yeah.
I mean, this was just downright awful. If it wasn't bad enough that you had this night was nail number one in their coffin for 2 reasons. Number one, this match, and number 2, the main event you never saw.
Right.
And then of course number 2, which we'll get to eventually, is the finger poke of doom.
Yeah. So
this right here was the start of their demise that led to 2001, because you gave a horrible double main event. The first part of it was awful, and then you couldn't even, if you watch it on pay-per-view, you can't even see the main event of Goldberg and Page.
And Hogan, man, Hogan almost setting himself on fire and burning off his eyelids
with the fireball. Yes.
Like what were they doing?
Typical NWO Bischoff shenanigans.
What were they doing? And you know, one of the worst matches I've ever seen, and it was sad because Hogan and Warrior had an epic match, and I wanted that to be, WrestleMania 6 I'm talking about, and that should have been the memory of, and seeing that, and they stunk up the joint. They
tarnished it. Yeah. Yes. And just, I mean, you couldn't even just have these guys fight one-on-one and let the best man win. No, you had to have the typical interference. They should have had everybody's barred from ringside. Let's get this settled once and for all. Who's better? No. And this is why Warrior said later on, I felt like I was brought back just so Hogan can get his redemption.
Yeah. Just Hogan get his win.
That's all it was.
Hogan get his win.
Hogan made him look bad from bell to bell.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pathetic. And after the fact, obviously, Hogan wins the match. Warrior loses. And I mean, WCW claimed they tried to save the storyline, but Warrior wasn't buying it. He wasn't having any part of it. I mean, there was really, what are you going to save?
But he kept showing up because he shows up.
He did.
He shows up the next night, does the run-in, right?
Yeah.
Then he shows up the week after.
Yeah. His final appearance was November 9th, 98 on Nitro, rescuing the Disciple from an NWO attack.
And Warrior said that he showed up, and when he got there, everybody was surprised that he was there.
They figured he was done, and they're going to ask for get in his resignation or ask for his release, whatever.
Right. They were surprised, and he said this shows you like how the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing because they sent him a plane ticket. That's how he got there, and he shows up, and they're surprised, and then he tries to get to talk to Bischoff. Bischoff refuses to talk to him, so he does Nitro, goes back home. Bischoff won't answer his calls, but he's still in the contract. He still ends up getting paid for 2 more months to do nothing.
Mm-hmm. Which was the ongoing thing in WCW.
Yeah. So that was it. So
guys would just stay home.
Yeah. Bischoff just didn't, was like, So I believe, and again, Warrior believes this, and I actually heard it from the Warrior's own mouth years later when I went to see him with Dave in Jersey. Unfortunately, I didn't know that he was going to pass away, 6 months later, whatever it was. But he said, basically they brought him in just to job to Hogan. But he's like, he said in a way, he never would have went back if he had known that that's what they were going to do. But he said It's okay. I took that money.
In the end, he got paid.
So, yeah.
But it tarnished his legacy to do that to a guy like that, especially at a caliber match like that. Because even if you treated it right, even if you say, okay, Hogan's going to get the win over you. However, we're going to do this fair and square. No nonsense run-ins. No help from anybody. No garbage. If Warrior would have been happy with that and stuck around, now again look at their roster and the matches that he could have had there with Goldberg or Steiner or Nash, Hall. I mean, Bret Hart even. I mean, if these guys weren't staying home for 6 months. I mean, just imagine what they could have done with them. He might have been able to help turn the ratings around. Instead, they just made him a laughingstock for the time he was there.
I mean, is it? But
it's sad.
Yeah, no, it was a wasted opportunity. They didn't know what they were doing. Warriors had, and again, he tells the story that a lot of people tell. They had no direction over there. No. You know, they didn't know what they were doing from day to day. You know, and they wasted the Ultimate Warrior, and it's no wonder why. You know, that was the beginning of the end. Because
that's the one I wonder why so much talent decided to leave.
Yeah, it only gets worse from there.
I mean, case in point, remember what Jericho was trying to do? You know, he asked Bischoff, "Hey, can I get some mic time?" And he wouldn't even ask him what it's for. He just said, "Yeah, just don't go over too long." And it was 3 months before Bischoff even knew what Jericho was doing when he was taunting Goldberg, trying to get his main event status up. I mean, the guy he's running the show and he's not even know what he's doing. Yeah. All he's worried about is he's looking at the TV, watching Monday Night Raw, seeing what they're doing, and worrying about the ratings, rather than you should be focusing on your own product. I mean, it was madness.
No, it was terrible. So that was a disaster. And then, you know, unfortunately, you know, years later, WWE's reaching out to Warrior to do a DVD. They're going back and forth. They can't come to sort of an agreement. So then WWE says, "Oh, well, you know what? We'll just bury him in a DVD." And they made the self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior, which was just them burying the Ultimate Warrior. You know, as a fan, I got the DVD, you know, of course, because I wanted to see the matches and stuff. But they just buried him. And they buried him. You never got to hear his side of what was going on. All these guys talked bad about him. They told lies too, which Warrior has proven through documents. You know, so that was really bad. And you know, slightly off topic, they were going to do the same thing to Bret the Hitman Hart. I don't know if you know this. Before they came out the DVD, Bret the Hitman Hart, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. They had already filmed a DVD called Screwed, the Bret Hart story. And
I remember hearing something about that.
Yes. And they were able to get Bret Hart to come. They came to an agreement with him. And one of the producers showed Bret Hart the documentary. And it was just all these wrestlers bearing. We've never seen the footage, but Bret Hart tells the story. They were going to do the same thing to him had he not shown up. You know, which is disgraceful. Yeah. You know, so Warrior eventually goes into litigation. He sues them for defamation of character, for all the things they said to him. They buried his character. You know, we spoke about that with Hogan. Oh, I don't remember saying I was going to break his leg. Then they showed Hogan the video.
Yeah, and all he did was just keep his head down.
Yeah, you know, eventually, I guess Warriors, you know, his lawyers weren't that good, so they weren't able to get money, and they ended up coming to some sort of an agreement where it's like, okay, I'll drop my lawsuit if you drop, because it was a countersuit too, and I'll just drop this, and we'll drop each other, and we'll just call it a day, you know. And there were discussions over the years. Vince would, you know, call him, hey, I want to put you in the Hall of Fame, and he was like, look, you know, what you did to me was disgraceful. You know, even in the court, after the court hearing, you know, Vince tried to walk up to Warrior and say, hey, buddy, how you doing? You know, and he extended his hand to Warrior, and Warrior said, I'm not shaking your hand. And this is where I go back to Warrior had principles. Warrior refused to shake his hand out of principle. He said, no, what you did to me was wrong. You know, how dare you, you know, discredit me and talk bad about me, and also, you know, the fans that supported me, you know, because ultimately by, you know, no pun intended, by insulting his character and making him look like garbage in that DVD,
yeah,
you insult the fans too that were loyal to him, that were fans to him throughout everything. You know, they made fun of his promos. Listen, I loved his promos as a kid. I loved them. I didn't care if I didn't know exactly what he was talking about, because that was his character. His character was this supernatural comic book character. You know, when he talks about loading the spaceship with the rocket fuel, I loved it. You know, I loved it as a kid. So that's BS when they say, oh, he couldn't cut a promo. Yes, he could. That was his character.
That was one of the best things he could do.
You know, and nobody
cut a promo.
Yeah, nobody had his intensity. You know, so say what you want to say about him. You know, oh, was he the greatest in-ring performer in terms of technicality? No, but
No,
he's
he wasn't
remembered.
a technical wrestler.
Listen, Dean Malenko was a great technical wrestler. Does anybody care about Dean Malenko?
No.
No offense to Dean Malenko. My point is, they remember the Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so fortunately, they gave the
Warrior. He was a brawler fighter,
right? And fortunately, he had an impact. You know, bigger. You know, one of the biggest impacts of all time. Now, fortunately, they came to an agreement where, yes, I will go in the Hall of Fame, but I have to tell my story, which they let the Warrior get 2 DVDs, and he told his story, you know, and I have both of them, you know, and he eventually goes into the Hall of Fame, came to an agreement, ironically, with Triple H, who had buried him, but they ended up, you know, having a meeting, and if anybody's seen some of the documentaries, they showed the meeting that he had with Triple H and everything, and you know, he finally got into the Hall of Fame, and he was really, really excited about it. You know, unfortunately, you can kind of see that in the Hall of Fame speech, like you could see he wasn't really moving right. He looked very red.
Yeah, I noticed that, and I noticed it more the night after on Monday Night Raw.
Yeah,
when he came out in the suit and he put on the Warrior mask and he snorted. I mean, he was just fire engine red in his face. His breathing looked abnormal,
yeah, he looked
abnormally
tired.
more than what he was.
Yeah, sweating.
Yeah, and it just something was off. And I'm watching it and I'm like, is he all right? Come to find out, several hours later, he had passed away.
Yeah,
of a heart attack. And I'm like, my God, I just watched this guy on Raw not a few
right,
hours ago.
right.
And this one really hit. There's only a handful of wrestlers that will honestly make a diehard wrestling fan emotional.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, God forbid, if it ever happens with Vince McMahon, I'm sure we're all going to do it. But I mean, Warrior was definitely one of those guys, and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this.
Yeah,
like, this is not happening.
I was shocked. My jaw hit the floor. I got emotional myself. I called Dave, my friend Dave. I called him and I was like, he's gone, man. He's gone. I couldn't believe it.
I called my friend Mike too, and I was just like, dude, did you hear this?
Yeah. It's just stunned. You know what was eerie though? The speech that he gave. It's almost as if he knew he was gonna die.
It was like a farewell speech because if you really listen to it, and if nobody has seen this, it was the night after WrestleMania 30. Please YouTube it and look at this, and it's on there, and listen to what he's saying. And the last thing he said, that Warrior will live forever.
And he talked about one day a man's gonna breathe his last breath or something like that.
Yes,
take his last heartbeat.
I think that's how he started the speech.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this is different. But maybe he sensed something.
I think he felt it. I think he felt that, you know, his time was running out. And it's just incredible when you think about it. The fact that he finally went back home. It was almost as if a higher power, I don't know if you believe, you know,
he was at peace.
Believe in God or anything like that, that the higher power said to him, like, I'm going to let you go back home and make peace and let you talk to the fans on the biggest forum that possibly, because from up until that point, you only saw his stuff on the internet. I followed the Warrior for years, so I knew what was going on. But unless you really followed him, you didn't know. But he got on TV and he got to tell everybody goodbye, you know, and how much he appreciated the fans, you know.
I thought it was cool that Vince gave him the ring time, because you know you don't see a Hall of Famer after they're inducted come out the following night after Mania.
Yeah, but this was the Warrior.
And so I really thought this was cool. I thought it was funny because if you look at WrestleMania 30 and they show you the behind the scenes, you know, he's over there and he shakes Hogan's hand. You see the look in his eye, and it's almost like, okay, we're getting another WrestleMania match here, because he hugged him, but I think it was more for the camera. But realistically, if you look at his eyes, there was dissension there.
No, even he told Hogan, he says, yeah, you know, I accept your apology, but
but I the look he was giving him just didn't believe it. I mean, I really wanted to believe it, just like the whole Bret Shawn thing. Like they want, you know, he wants to say this feud's over. Deep down, I really don't think he even believes it, because I still think, you know, there's a little piece there that still nags at him.
Listen, Hogan buried him. He called him a flash in the pan.
Yes,
he said a lot of disparaging things about him. Now, after that, I don't know if you remember the Ultimate Warrior Shoot interview he did on YouTube, where he blasted the Hogan for like 40 minutes, and he said some really, really personal things, which I'm not going to get into in this video, but. Yeah. You know, so there was a lot of animosity. I would have, you know, looking at it, did they really squash the beef? I don't know.
I think to make the fans happy, I think maybe they did.
But who knows? Had he stayed alive, maybe they could have come to some sort of eventually over time. But the Warrior, like I said,
I know they were talking in the back and stuff. But I mean, really, I mean that, and it's on camera. Who knows what the
he caught him off guard. Remember, he caught him off guard.
Yeah.
And Triple H, I don't know if you know this. Triple H warned him. He said, "Listen, stay the hell away from Warrior. You know, he's in a very good place. He's like, if you're gonna talk to him after." Talk to him after he gives the Hall of Fame speech, which he did. He waited.
Let us get this done. he waited till the next day.
The next day, and he caught him and he spoke
at the arena. Yeah,
but you know, whatever. You know, it is what it is. But Warrior had a great career, man. I don't care what anybody says. Even though he was in and out, and even though he wasn't the greatest technical wrestler, his impact is undeniable.
He had the greatest impact in the shortest times he did it.
Yeah.
And just imagine if it was a full ride. Right. I mean, 15-year WWE career. From 88 through 2003, something like that. You know, an average 15-year career. Imagine what he could have done. Even a 20-year career. I mean, this guy could have been definitely the all-time greatest performer. And in the short time he was there, he was outstanding.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So that's
one of my favorites.
Yeah. No question. One of my favorites too. So that's our Ultimate Warrior series. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let us know what you think about the Warrior. We're going to be having Razor Ramon. His career, only his WWF
92 to 96. Yeah,
we're going to be going over that next. So make sure you guys like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.
Take care, guys.